Hey there, Simmers! Welcome to this large modern house build in Del Sol Valley. It's on the Chateau Peak site, in case you would like to put it in the same place. Here at the beginning, I'm making a general exterior layout that will be adjusted as I decide where I want key components of the interior house to be. At the beginning, I used this entryway with large pillars to make a very grand entrance. I end up changing it a little later and setting it into the building instead of out. This space up here, I'm designing to be a sort of public, sort of private area for the Sims to sit outside or have a barbecue. The idea is that while it's a very open space, on the front of the home, there are these louver railings that give it a little bit of privacy. The design, I wanted to be very simple lines because it is a modern build and it'll go with the rest of what I would like to put in here. There's an issue with the stairs at the front and I don't know why there was an obstruction, so I just leave it for now. The other side of the building here, I decide to chop out a sort of L shape and put on the front here a little cutout to give it the fin effect that we had on the other side, but a little bit different. I wanted to put in a very grand stair here that has glass on both sides so that you can see right through. So I'm just adjusting the plan and setting up how I want that to be. I slide everything back a little, then begin adding the windows to see how it looks. I wanted it to be a pass-through area to go from one side of the house to the other. Here, just lining things up and then thinking about this outdoor space that I wanted to add into it. It's just a little garden area that you can grow small plants in. And I raised it up on a platform and took out bits of the railing, so I believe the Sims can still get up there. I know they sometimes have trouble if you're trying to climb ladders and have platforms, or if you put like doors too close to them. So I'm hoping here we don't have that issue. Just taking a quick second to line things up. Here I decide to do an outdoor pool area. It was originally going to be an indoor space, but to make the shape a little bit more interesting, I decided for an outdoor pool and bar area. Here in the front, I'm looking for a black door. And this is when I start to realize that I'm not very fond of that front. So as I'm putting in some of the pieces that I know I want to do, I'm thinking about the area in the front. Out the back here, I wanted a space between the pool area and that other outdoor porchy area to have maybe a tree or sort of decoration. But when you take the platforms out, or the foundation out, then it makes that void space. So I ended up using the platforms and just putting them down a little bit. Beginning on the roof shape here, this was one of the big drives in this build to have that outdoor space be uncovered. Roofs can sometimes be very weird when you have a large home and they can just take over and be way too large. So I'm trying to mitigate that by having certain angles and curves in the build, adjusting the roof here and the walls to see if I can make it a little bit easier to put together. Adding a little porch area in the back to accommodate for how I wanted that roof on the side. Here I do the trick with the roofs where I have one that has the overhangs on the outside and then one without the overhangs for the area that has the half wall. Adding platforms for a little bit of a different shape also for the roof, I think makes it look really good. It makes it look nice and thick. Laying out a design for the backyard, thinking about how I want to extend the porch and give them a little pool here as well. Maybe the pool undercover is heated or something, and then this one is just a regular pool, or maybe one is a saltwater pool and one is not. And then I pull that wall back for the second floor in order to give this indoor-ish, outdoor-ish pool area a nice roof. I begin with the whole thing as windows and change it to have a portion windows and a portion real roof. I begin with a large platform all the way across the roof on the side and decide very quickly that I don't actually like the way that it looks. So I try to incorporate some more of those angled roofing pieces that kind of meet lower in the middle and higher on the outside. Beginning to adjust the front to how I would like it. The idea that I had was a lot of glass on that area on the right side where you have those wings, and also large square windows, very chic, very modern, going with this build. And now begins when I decide that I don't like that entryway and I want to put in another one. So I just throw a general door in there at first. I actually really like that door for a front door. Deciding here that I would like the roof area above the entryway to be different than the rest of the build. Starting out by putting in those half walls with some platforms, adjusting the foundation here, deciding how I want to pull the stairs down. And I don't see that issue anymore with the stairs anymore after this, so I don't know what happened in the beginning. The ponds, I believe, give it a really, or not ponds, but fountains, give it a really nice regal view and sort of lead you to the front door. Here for the pathway, I start with this one that looks like stone, but I think I was expecting something else because I didn't like it almost immediately. So I decide on this cobblestone pathway, and that one works a lot better for me. Working again on the front, I realized the issue with not having even amounts of squares in what I'm doing. And I just take a minute to adjust it here, making the fountain a little larger, adding the windows on the side, pulling everything over. If you're wondering why I left those large windows on the front, kind of around the corner, instead of stretching it all the way out, I believe that's a design called bookends, but I could be wrong on that. I just enjoy having that picturesque corner. Thinking about the stairs again, wanting to put the windows in, and then realizing that I have this outdoor space that's not going to play well because the railing goes right into the window. And if it was maybe just a metal railing, it would be okay because it could just go into the ground. But here it's like big concrete, so it can't just hang out right before the window. Adding some detailing to the back, figuring out how the Sims are going to get down into the yard. I decide on a couple different ways that they can come down, depending on where they want to go. They have the small pool area and the large pool area, and then end up putting a playhouse in the back for kids. Here I wanted to add a little shape to it, and the platforms were not cooperating. So in the end, I make it an entire room again and transform it that way, using the platforms again. It's always difficult when you have a hexagon or an octagon to figure out what to do with the roof. I don't leave the platform. There's an issue with the roof there that it makes a void when it meets with the platform. So I end up just bringing out those half walls and cutting them around the roof. And here is when I decide to change the roof a little bit over the pool. I know that the Sims don't really care if they're inside or outside for like sun exposure, unless of course they're getting a suntan. But I like the idea that they can maybe be floating around in that pool and not have to be directly in the sun the whole time. I wanted to add some more green onto the front of the building to mirror the exterior space out back. And it takes me a little bit of time to figure out how I want to have the edges of the platforms there. Just decide on a very modern black. Beginning now on the exterior finishes, I tried hard to get that horizontal to work, the horizontal wood, and I just don't like it. So I end up putting in, I think that's like my favorite vertical wood for an exterior of a build, and using these nice black panels, metal panels for the accent areas, I guess, of the build, and then just the white stucco on the rest of it. That way each shape to the house has its own decoration, its own feel. One is this warm wood color, one is a darker black, and then one is the white. Choosing a black foundation to go all the way around, and then deciding I don't like that small area as the black portion of the building, and then I just change it over to the white stucco and give it a little half walls. This front part above the entry door gave me a lot of trouble. I couldn't figure out what to do. We don't have any triangular windows that aren't custom content that fit in there. And I didn't like any of the square or round windows that I found. So I try a decoration, and it would be, I think the decoration would be okay if it followed the angle of it, but it didn't work here. I try a couple of windows just there in the corner, directly above the door instead of centered on the wall, and then adding this little awning over top. If I was adding custom content, I would do triangular windows in there, but because I'm not, I decided that this would be maybe the best option. For the side here, originally I was going to put in another set of black windows, but because the wall is already black, I decided to go with a more fun window, which could be controversial. I like it. I use the green ones. It goes with the green of the roof, but it gives it a little more interesting look on the front. As you can see, I was looking at how it would show up if you look at it on through the gallery. Adding a little bit of landscaping here. I am not a huge fan of landscaping. I do try, and I really like the way that it looks when other people do it. I'm not a fan of all of my landscaping. I'm just not great at it. I did architecture for a reason, not landscaping, and I have high respect for landscapers. They have a brain that I do not have. I fill in and use a lot of regular grasses and those hedges. That is my staple for exterior design. Although I do add a little topiary or a fun bush here or there just to customize it a little bit. This front entryway and these tiles gave me such a hard time. I wanted something black to match the stairs, but was also a tile, and could not find anything that I liked. For my own build, for my own play, I would probably use a green tile, But for here, I decide to go with just that plain large square tile. I think it still looks okay. It's just not maybe what I would choose on my own. Up until this point, I really haven't thought about what I want the sides to look like other than just sort of the general shape. So I start to add the windows in and think about how I would want the Sims to come out of the back of the house. In the beginning, I start with the large sliding doors from the Eco Lifestyle pack, but they're not black. Their black version is gray, and it doesn't go with the deep blacks that we've been using. So for the small pool area, I use the one from the Island Living pack, as that has a good black color. These archways are from the Industrial Loft kit, I believe, and I really like them. They have a sort of good open vibe, which is why I use them in the stairwell that's kind of a more open feel. I'm laying in a general kitchen layout, not bathroom. I don't add any of the appliances that I feel like whoever wants to have this house for their Sims can customize it in any way that they want, and there's any number of ways that you can do it. I just wanted to give you what I was thinking for this build for placement of specific rooms. The window in that little pantry area, I spent a lot of time thinking about what I wanted to do there. I didn't want you to be in the pool area looking into that room. Adding some windows to that hexagonal area in the back got me thinking about, do I like that sliding door down there? Do I want windows above this roof? Do I want those 4 windows over at the green space area where the stairs are when they don't match the windows below? I don't like the windows above the roof is what I decided. I didn't like that door, I decided. So I'd start by going through a whole bunch of different options, seeing what is black that's available, looking at those 2 sets of double doors and realizing that I don't really want to have that coming out of the house. I like these from the fitness pack. They don't have that hard black, but they do have the green that we've been going for in some of the other parts of this build. And I decide that there really isn't much else that I like to match it, but I really want to keep those doors and windows. So I bump up the whole second floor to the second higher wall height and add the 3 taller windows in the back. Then I just have to spend some time updating everything around the house to fit the slightly larger walls, which means adjusting the fins out front, the louvers, and all of the windows that are supposed to be floor-to-ceiling windows. Adjusting the windows here at the stairwell got me thinking that there must be another way to have the windows set up so that it can match on all sides. In the end, I decide a double window on the inside and 2 smaller windows on either side of the double. I'm able to do it on all sides and have it look good. And so that worked with what I wanted. As I go forward, I'm thinking about where I want the rooms to be, the different bedrooms, and all I really start with in the beginning is knowing that I want 2 on the upper level of the smaller wing, and then just build out from there. However, I thought here, where we have those tall windows, it would be really nice to have an open area to see up and down and have a large chandelier. I'm looking for a door to go outside, something with a black frame, and can't find it. So I just put a window in and decide that they'll just have to have access from the other rooms. Skipped ahead a little bit, but these are those 2 bedrooms that I was just talking about, and figuring out how I want the entrances into those rooms, because I know that I want bathrooms and closets for each of them. So I have to plan it out in a way that the doors won't be in the way of walls. I choose the thinner closets and would like to put 2 in each space. I think in a house this big, it's kind of nice to have a regal wardrobe. You can also use the custom pieces found in the interior designer pack, which is probably the ones that I would use. But just for this build, it's a little easier to create your own space if there's not a lot of stuff that you have to erase out first. Adjusting the door colors here with having the same color frames but different doors to say, hey, this is a different bedroom than this bedroom over here, which is kind of obvious because they're different doors. But at the same time, I think it's nice to have a little bit of customization. The chandelier was fun to choose which one I wanted to do. I thought, oh, maybe the square one looks really good in this square-ish space. But the round one could also look nice because we also have a little bit of an angle. I do decide on just a square one for now. Thoughts on the other side of the house here. There's a lot of space, and I knew it was going to be too much for 2 bedrooms, or 3 bedrooms, because we already have 2 on the other side. And sim homes can get really hectic with a lot of sims in them. So I wanted to design this for maybe less sims. A little roof adjustment. Back downstairs in these bedrooms. Laying out, I decide on 2 there. Making them a little smaller. And thinking that maybe the space outside of them could be community office. And then I put in this workout room. I go through the fitness stuff for matching windows and doors, and I don't know why they don't have any that match. So I just leave the doors and take out the windows. I like to use some of the pre-designed rooms for this type of build. It allows me more flexibility to do the whole build instead of trying to decide on everything in one room right off the bat. This double height space, I extend out to be the whole area there. Putting in a door for that front area to get out onto the porch. Then we go downstairs, taking a look at the regal stair and the spaces around it. I wanted just a simple tree in the front or large bush. We have a lot of options, and in the end I decided on that large square pot. Then thinking about accent walls, adding lights in so that we can actually see what's in the space, because we have a very large space. Don't worry, I don't leave them all scattered like that. They will line up with the rooms as they're made. I wanted a sunken living room area, starting with just those half walls, and then decide that I want a full wall to divide the living from the dining kitchen area. I've always wanted a nice large couch in my Sims homes, but I never build houses for them that are this big, so I don't get to do it very often. I really enjoy when I get to build something like this and I can actually have all of those fun details in here. The space is so large you can use even the larger televisions if you wanted to. Deciding how I want the dining room to be. Here I will use a layout that's already kind of pre-designed for the rooms. I start by using some of the more farm-ish style and then decide to move over to this more like black and white and a little bit of green from the outside, pulling it in. At first I didn't know what to do with that space out front, and then very quickly decide that, hey, that might be a good spot for a little greenhouse. It's kind of close enough to the kitchen area that maybe you could grow some herbs, fruits, or veggies to have. If it were up to me, I would be using the Batu tiles, but I know that people are not a fan of Batu, so I just use other tiles. Add in some overhead lights there, putting in a few extra windows, lining everything up. It took a bit of thinking to figure out what I want to do in that lower level on the first floor. And I end up with a kind of play area. There's sort of a toddler room and also a video arcade area. But for now, I'm just laying out the bathrooms, getting in those columns there. Just because I didn't know what to do with this space at first. So I needed a little bit of extra time to think about it. Playing around with those windows, I just thinking about what kind of stuff I want in this space, knowing I wanted that to be a bathroom, because at this point I knew that I wanted it to be a sort of nursery area and they need a bathtub and a small potty. I like to have kids areas on the ground floor because toddlers can't go up the stairs until they have their movement skill. So it's easier to just have them down here where they can play and eat and everything that they need to do. Toddler rooms and kid rooms can be fun if you want to make them very colorful or customize them with a lot of unique things. And that's what I end up doing in my own play. But for this generic one, I try to keep it very simple and just a little light with the yellow. But mostly just leave it up to whoever wants to play in this. Building the play area here, putting in this arcade, using the biggest screen that I can. Do I want to enclose this room? Do I want it to be an open area with couches? Or do I want it to be a more classic movie theater style with individual chairs? And I really like the posters. So I decide to go with a more theater classic like. And these chairs from that pack, I can't think of, the paranormal stuff pack, works out so well in this space. They have the perfect sort of shape and color feel to them. The door was a little fun to think about. Originally, I was thinking a glass door because then you could see in, but then I was like, well, you kind of don't want to. You might get light pollution on the screen from whatever's out there, or glass is not really good for sound, so you'd hear figuratively because you're Sims and you can't actually. So it is a little silly, but it's nice in the end. I do change the time of day to see how the space looks on the inside. It's kind of nice to think about the lighting in the area when you actually need the lighting. The corner in the dining room is the perfect area to have a little bit of something there in the corner. You could even add a plant in there, one that actually grows, not like a generic decorative plant. Pools can be fun. I like to add different colors sometimes, maybe pinks or greens. But here I'm keeping it the similar modern feel as the rest of the house, giving little areas for the Sims to hop in and out. A few customized pieces up here to make it look lived in, or give you the general idea of what I was thinking could be the setup for this outdoor space. Just a couple of chairs, maybe a few tables, depending on how large the family is, or if you want to have parties. Adding a few kids things. It's sometimes really hard to have kids stuff on the other lots because they're so big. And here we have the opportunity to have those larger pieces, and also really cool big lights out the front. It might be a little much. You can always change it, it is The Sims. I thought it was pretty cool. If you want to do some nighttime swimming out here, you have these nice balloons. I love this hanging tree, or I guess tree with the hanging lights. Just doesn't work here because we have the palm tree style. We're getting here to the end of the build. I hope you enjoy it. You'll download it and play in it. And I will see you in the next video.